everyone, my name is Tamara Chambers, and this is Tamara Just Saw. Tonight I went and saw Venom. I really wanted to see all horror films during the month of October. And I still did, because this was because this was horribly bad. Ike gets it, the dad joke I just made. It wasn't actually horribly bad. The reviews that I've been seeing online, just tweets by people, which is not how I should get my news now that I'm thinking about it, but they've been terrible. While it is definitely a mess in some places, I thought that it was visually really cool. I thought there were some really cool relationship things happening. Let's just get into it. Venom, the movie that is most definitely canon after Spider-Man 3. You can quote me on that. It's not, just kidding. God, I wish. That would be amazing. These are the kind of Tamara Just Saw episodes that I really enjoy doing because I'm actually excited about the content. I was very excited to see Venom. I really like the character Venom. I think it's a really cool thing to have this anti-hero. I am not pissed about what they gave us. I wish it would have been rated R. And I wish that we would have seen like any kind of deaths. I think he kills like 5 people in the whole entire movie. And he's like this crazy powerful alien or symbiote or, you know, he's got some of these. He's got some of those. You know what I mean. There's no blood when Venom rips the head off of like his victim. There's no blood even with like gunshot wounds and stuff like that. Eddie Brock gets hit by a truck and then breaks like all of his bones and like there's open wounds and there's barely any blood. PG-13 can show blood. I've seen PG-13s with a lot more blood than this. It was just that was a super weird choice. It was almost in your face how PG-13 this movie was versus the R that it could have been. I think there's some really good R-rated Marvel films that are fun and we want those films, please. I don't imagine that this is going to be in any kind of universe that we know of right now. I think this might be starting its own thing. I really don't imagine they're gonna put him in with, you know, Tom Holland Spider-Man. That would be very weird. The world building in this was pretty lazy. It felt very bland. It felt like if I would have seen this in 2009, I would have been like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But now, after like the advances that we've seen in superhero comic book films, it felt a little lazy. Right down to like the first scene is Tom Hardy waking up next to his beautiful wife, Michelle Williams, or fiance, sorry, not married, never got married, their apartment room. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find a reference photo to show you guys because the movie just came out, but it's very, 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 very bland. I thought maybe she was like a mistress or they were like cheating on their spouses because it felt like a hotel room. And it's like, oh, they're meeting because they both have wedding rings on. It's like, oh no, they're just engaged in their home? What? Oh, who decorates like that? That is a hotel painting. Such a Tamara complaint. But when things aren't built up like that, then the relationships diminish a bit. I don't think that Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams had incredible chemistry, but I do think small details like that, like if they had had like a very specific world around them, I think that would have like helped in that. And the whole world kind of felt like that. It all felt pretty just like they could be anywhere in any setting, and it's really not specific at all. Critics are really tearing this thing apart, but the audience that I was with loved it. They were laughing at things that I didn't particularly find funny. I think a big flaw of this film is that a lot of recent Marvel films, and I know this wasn't all Marvel, they were just kind of included there because it's not all theirs, right? It's with Sony. I think though a lot of our like leading men, our heroes right now, are these like capable, studly, but also quirky and really funny. They have to have a really funny comedic edge. And we're talking like our Chris Evans, our Chris Pratts, our Chris Pines, our Chris Hemsworth, our Chris's. The quadruple Chris. Tom Hardy is a very awkward dude. And I like that in certain things. For me, none of the comedy with him landed at all. And I think there were some obvious grabs at it, and other people did. So maybe this is just me being nitpicky, but it felt pretty awkward. Pretty, like, it just was right below the cuff of, like, a really funny line. The script also didn't lend him any favors. I think the script was the biggest failure of this movie. If the script was written better, if the villain was written better, if Eddie Brock was written better, if the relationship between him and his fiancée were written better, none of the relationships were written really well. None of the dialogue was written really well. None of it was written well except for the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom. And I think a lot of that has to do with Tom Hardy. I think that that's where he really shined. I think that's where the movie really shined, is the relationship between them. There's a scene where there's a bunch of cars chasing Eddie Brock and then Venom. And the only interesting parts of the whole chase, and it's a long chase, it's just not interesting action. I don't necessarily think it was directed very well. It was very dark. It wasn't exciting, but when he was talking to Venom on his bike and when Venom was helping him out, and there was some really good use of powers of Venom, that was the only exciting part about it. I was really excited to see a lot more use of Venom's powers. I do think that they were well showcased, and I think visually it looks really cool. I was not upset with the visuals at all. There's a scene at the end where Venom is fighting Riot, the ultimate villain of the movie, and you see them, it's like in the comics, you see Venom splitting from Eddie Brock and Riot splitting from the human villain of the story. I forget his name. He was pretty boring. Again, I think that's the script. But you know, in the comics where they split apart from the human for a bit, and it's like very wingy and stringy, and it's awesome. I really love the visuals of that fight. I thought it was super cool. There's a lot of really, really cheesy lines though that just feel like, here we are in a 90s action comic book film. You know, for a smart guy, you really are a dumbass. Do you ever feel like your life is one monumental screw up? What? Then there's a Tootsie reference. God, don't I love Tootsie. I don't love Tootsie. Jenny Slate, who plays Mona Lisa Saperstein in Parks and Recreation, is in this movie, and I love her so, so much. And she was so delightful in this. I didn't recognize her at first because she was playing such a drastically different character, and her voice sounded different, and she just was such a transformation. Just a side note, no one watching this review is going to be very interested in that, but now you know. Money, please! I just scared my cat. I'm sorry about that, but money, please. A lot of weird direction choices that just didn't really make sense. When he first is introduced to Venom, he has this running away scene where he's being chased by a running away scene. It's what the real critics call it. That's what the true film critics like to call it, is a running away scene. Ask anyone. There's a chase scene where he's running out of this institution where he's just been ignited with venom. These guys surround him and they all have guns pointed at him, and then he just disappears. And all the guys like come in together and they're like, where did he go? Where could he possibly be? And they're surrounding a giant tree. And it's like, well, maybe one of you look up. I don't see why any of you wouldn't look. Oh, you're not gonna look straight up. The only possible direction he could have gone. Not, maybe just like one guy in the back who's like, oh, maybe I just didn't see him. Like, no one's even gonna, no, okay. Cool. I am happy to report that Venom does kiss Tom Hardy in this movie. He kisses him as Michelle Williams' character because he takes her over for a brief spell. But then it really does seem, we're very much getting into some spoilers here, so just watch out there. But it very much does seem like Venom falls for Tom Hardy. Like, Venom falls in love with Eddie Brock, and I love it. He's like, all right, I was gonna take over the whole world and eat everyone's heads off, but instead I decided to save you and save you from Riot, and we're gonna do this together because I like you as a host. And he's like, well, what really made you stay? And he's like, you, Eddie, you. And then they launch off into the night to take care of Riot. It's like, man, still a better love story than Twilight. Am I right? It was missing a couple really big things, and I think a script rewrite would have done them so much good. Adding in some legit good comedy, or just not attempting comedy. I think the relationships should have been built up a lot more. I think that the world building should have been built up a lot more. I think that there should have been more kissing between Venom and Eddie Brock. All in all, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty. I didn't get bored. and I'm glad that I saw it. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye. You know, for a smart guy, you really are a dumbass.